Alright, today we're doing notes on 8.6, which is real similar to 8.5. This is solving percent problems with proportions. So solving percent problems with proportions. And you'll remember from the last chapter, we did a lot of work with proportions in the last chapter, that the proportions are basically one fraction equals another fraction. You could write this first part. I probably wouldn't write this, but in 8.5 what we were doing is the equation that we used over and over, and I tried getting you to write it for your homework problems, is percent times the whole equals the part. And I actually prefer this way for solving for percent problems. I'm going to show you this new way in 8.6 that maybe some of you will like more, but since I prefer 8.5 in this equation, I'm probably going to do most of my problems this way. But with this percent, so we had, if you were looking at like 42% of something, in here we put a 0.42. And so we said when we did problems like this that the percent here always had to be in decimal form. So in other words, you take your percent and you divide by 100, or you'd move the decimal point 2 places to the left to convert the percent to a decimal. The nice part for some people is this new way, you don't have to do that divide by 100. You don't have to remember that. And what they give us in 8.6, so here's the new equation, I would write this down, is a proportion you remember is one fraction equals another. So what they do is they do percent divided by 100 is going to be one of our fractions, and essentially what that does is it takes and moves the decimal point 2 to the left. So this one you just put in here what the actual percent is. So if you have a 42%, you'd put in 42 right here, not 0.42. But percent over 100 equals the part divided by the whole. Then just like we did in the last chapter, you would usually end up cross-multiplying to solve ones like this. But I'm just going to do two examples, and you can kind of decide if you like it this way better or the other way. When you do the homework, you can totally pick if you want to go back to this old equation, this one up here in blue, if you want to do this like we were doing in the section before, or if you want to try it this new way. But two examples, and then we are done for today. So my first example, I'll say example 1. And I'm going to say what percent of 64, so what percent of 64 is 18? And just like we said in the 8.5 notes, that this is right here, if we're looking at the, quick switch colors on you. So this is 18. After the is where you get the part. Or maybe it'll be before, it'll say 18 is blah, 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 blah. But then the number that's associated with the word of, that's typically going to be the whole. So if we have that equation up there in red, we want to go and fill it in. Well, the percent is what we're looking for. So right up here for the percent, I'm just going to put in x. Then we divide that by 100. And then that's going to equal the part divided by the whole, part divided by whole. So my part is the 18, my whole is my 64. So 18 and 64. Now you could go through and say, ooh, what did they do to x? X was divided by 100. So the fastest way is to go through and multiply both sides by 100. And when you do that, you'll get 18 times 100 divided by 64. And if you don't see it that way, though, I'm going to kind of go back to what always works. And that's cross-multiplying. That we could take and multiply those two together, and I get a 64 times x. And that's going to equal these other two multiplied together. So it equals 100 times 18. And you'll notice perhaps that this ends up doing the same math as what we did before, where I have, well, now what was done to x? X was multiplied by 64. So to get x by itself, we need to divide both sides by 64. And that'll undo x being multiplied by 64. So if I punch that into a calculator, I end up getting 28.125. And because now we're using this new fraction, we don't have to move the decimal point at all. We just know that that is the actual percent. Because in these problems we said you put the percent here without moving that decimal point. We'll do one more, and then we are done. So example 2. Example 2, I'm going to say 36 is 80% of what number? So 36 is 80% of what number? And I'm going to go, my original equation we said was the percent divided by 100 equals the part divided by the whole. And like normal, I really encourage you to write out the equation. It'll help you memorize it for the test. And it's just a whole lot easier when it's sitting there right in front of you. So, okay, the percent. Well, the percent is going to be my 80, so I say 80 over 100. And with this type of thing, you just take the percent and put it in. You don't change it to a decimal. Equals the part and the whole. Well, we need to figure out the 36. Is that the part or the whole? Well, we said the number that's paired up with the is, that's always going to be the part. So the 36 has to go up here in the numerator. And the number that's paired up with the of is the whole. So when they say of what number, this what number, the thing we're trying to find, is going to be the whole. So for one like this, it's definitely easiest to cross multiply. So I'm going to say, all right, I'm going to do my 80 times x. That gives me 80x equals, then I have 100 times 36. So 100 times 36. And you could say, well, what's done to x? We need to undo that. X was multiplied by 80, so we divide both sides by 80. I'm going to do an extra step because some people, I maybe lost them in that last one. And they like doing 100 times 36 first, and you'll get 3,600. So maybe you like doing that, simplifying it a little bit. And then you say, all right, what was done to x? X was multiplied by 80. So we divide both sides by 80 to get x by itself. X being in this case that whole number. What was that whole amount? When we punch that in, we get a 45. So 45 is that number we're looking for. So that's it for the notes for today. If you have any questions, let me know.